yeah, thanks so much everyone for joining and spending the next 60 minutes with me and Chris. A bit of housekeeping at the start. Some of you have already submitted questions on your registration. So we had around 10 questions, which I'll go through over the course of this webinar with Chris. And then we'll have a quick 10-minute Q&A at the end of it to answer any last-minute questions that you guys might have. But feel free to use the chat if there's any burning questions that you've got for Chris or I during us talking, then feel free to pop them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on it there. And also just a quick thank you before we get going to Saucer, who generously donated to my business's charity partner, Beyond Blue. So thanks so much, Saucer and the team there. For those of you who don't know Saucer, they are an Australian and New Zealand reviews-based platform and a recommendations platform. So it allows you to find recruiters, read reviews, and make better connections. So feel free to go and check it out. I'll send the recording of this session to all attendees after the event. Please feel free to forward that on to any of your clients that might find it useful. And check out Saucer's sites as well, so I'll include a link to that. I guess a quick intro to me, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ez Khan. I run a business called Spence Lane. We are a rec agency and a business advisory agency. I've been running the business for around 16 months now, very small team, so there's only 3 of us. And prior to opening this business, I was the COO of a national agency, and prior to that, I was a recruiter across business support, architecture, and interior design. And I guess the reason I'm doing this podcast, not a podcast, this webinar, is ad copy. I'm not the best at it. I find it quite painful and actually quite hard to craft a really good ad. And I know there's huge value in crafting a decent ad. So really excited to have Chris on to talk about this and share his knowledge. But I'll hand over to Chris to introduce himself. Chris, fire away. Who are you, mate?
Yeah, who am I? So as Ed said, thank you very much for having me, and hello to everyone from around Australia. So my name is Christopher Melotti, and I founded and manage the copywriting and content agency Melotti Media. So we're based in Sydney, but we work with businesses both in Australia and externally. And yeah, so I'm excited to chat because I love what I do and I'm passionate to share my knowledge. So here we go.
Oh, it's such an important skill, Chris. I think in 10 years that I've been in recruitment, genuinely, there's not been a single instance of my managers or business owners going, we're going to go through content writing. And as recruiters, a large portion of our role is writing content, whether it's emails or job ads.
Yes.
I think the common misconception that I hear time and time again from recruiters, and I've fallen prey to this as well, just saying Seek ads don't work. And that's not true. They do work. Yeah. And I've got a very real life example of one that I posted about a month and a half ago after a copywriting course that I went on. And I had 3 amazing candidates all got offered that particular role that they had applied for.
Nice
and it was because but it took me hours to craft this ad, and I'm sure there's a better way to do it. So what are your thoughts on the current job ads that you've seen at the moment, Chris?
Yeah. So look, I'll take a big picture approach here, everyone. And it really, the essence of copywriting doesn't change despite the medium. Sorry. So despite the medium. So what I mean by that is that the essence of it is audience connection. That's really where it comes to. It doesn't matter whether it's a Facebook ad, a video, it doesn't matter. It's always about the audience connection. And if you take your recruiter hat off for a second and put your customer hat on, or your applicant hat on, you've got to think that you only pay attention to things that are relevant to you. I'm a big advocate of brand relevance. And so when you're writing your ad, it must be focused on making yourself relevant and exciting and interesting. Now, it's not saying that you have to say, oh, this is going to be the job of your dreams or anything like that, or carrying on like that. But what you need to say is you're looking for the ideal candidate as much as they're looking for the ideal role. And so you have to make sure that your skin's in the game as well. And so the copy has to be catered around their passions, their career, their goals as well. And so the problem, to answer your question, is that the problem that I see with a lot of ads is that it's me, right? All it says is, it's like this wall of cliche text. It says, this job is for this medical clinic. You need to have this experience, and this is what we need from you. Apply now. And if you think about it, you're making it difficult to find the real cream of the crop, because yes, sure, I know what people are thinking. Well, they want to apply for the job, right? But when it comes down to it is, if you really want the ideal candidate or candidates applying, you need to show that it's a two-way street here, especially today in the modern environment where people are looking for what's in it for me as well. And so, sorry to carry on, I'm just trying to say is that it's your copy needs to reflect the fact of what they're going to get for their time as well. And so the ads that I've written, the ones that really resonate with people are the ones that say things like, for the right candidate, you will be rewarded with an enjoyable career. Somewhere where you can, I'm just throwing out words here, somewhere where you're allowed to make mistakes and grow. Somewhere where, you've got a culture that we put particular focus on so that you can enjoy yourself at work. Somewhere where we like to collaborate in a conducive way where you won't feel alone or isolated. Those kind of words are really important, as well as making sure that they are true.
Yeah.
Another thing, like it's what we were saying, is that it's not just saying this is an amazing job and then they get there and hate it, because that's when you get the churn, right?
Yeah.
Which is, again, as a recruiter, you don't want. It needs to be true as well. And so what I would suggest is working and collaborating with your client to say, what is it that are the best aspects of this role and the best aspects of your environment? And how can we put this forward in a way that feels appealing to our ideal candidate?
Yeah, it's funny, Chris. I did a quick recce of job ads, and quite a lot of them, it is just, these are the tasks you'll be doing. And would you say it's redundant? Because I've always found, in my ads for the longest time, I've never really put down the actual tasks of the role, because I assume anyone applying for a recruitment consultant role knows that they'll be screening candidates. But I still see that in job ads for recruitment consultants that I've seen posted. It's like, your duties will be screening CVs, making, and I'm like, how is this engaging at all? Like, you would assume that someone applying for a role of recruiter knows the role of a recruiter. Would you say it's still important to put down those tasks?
I would say the redundant items, like you said, the real cliche stuff, I don't think you need to. Or better still, you can rephrase them in a more engaging way. So instead of saying, for example, if you're looking for a social media manager, instead of saying managing all our social media platforms, you might rephrase it as, this is an exciting opportunity to get in with our Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram accounts and really exemplify what our brand is on the digital sphere. Yeah. Do you see how that goes from saying you need to manage our social media accounts to this is your opportunity, great word, opportunity, to get out there and look at our brand and show us how we can portray ourselves on the brand online. And that's kind of where you can turn a redundant or boring statement into something exciting.
Like, what would you say are the absolute no's in an ad?
I would say the harsh tone. I get it that some of your clients will be very professional, like you've got lawyers and financial sort of counsel things. I get it, but I've seen some ads there that are quite like almost nasty, and it's like, do not apply if. And I get it. As a recruiter, you're probably frustrated with all these riffraff that you might get. Just give you resume after resume. But what I'm saying is that instead of saying that, rephrase it a bit more positive, because it sets the tone not only for your client but also for you and how your recruitment agency works. Remember that it's advertising in multiple sort of factors to people. And so, for example, if you are quite nasty in your job ad, then they're going to see you from then on and go, oh, that recruiter's a bit nasty. And you'll be surprised. You might think, no, they won't. You'll be surprised how subconscious signals like that really impact your audience over and over and over again. And so what I'm saying is the absolute no's would be, don't make it a negative experience. Don't say things like, you've got, don't apply if, or this is not one of those roles where, and I don't mean like in a positive way, the one where it says, don't get it wrong or don't misunderstand, or it's got to be really positive and uplifting, because remember, it's a change for people, and it's an exciting opportunity, and you want to make sure that you're putting out the right message.
Yeah. I think one of the best pieces of advice that I've been given, Chris, and you touched upon this earlier, is addressing that one person.
Yes.
I think too often people think an ad needs to attract multiple people, but ultimately, very rarely you'll need more than one person for a role.
Yes.
So it's like crafting that person in your head and going, I'm going to write for that one person versus 200 applicants. I just need the one right person to apply. I think that's one thing that people always fall over with, thinking they need to sort of attract loads of people.
Yeah. And there's like it's a copywriting 101, is form the persona of the person you're trying to attract in your mind. And it's not that you're cutting off the other potentials, but what it's trying to say is you don't have to go specific. But what you can do is you can say the ideal applicant would be someone with these kind of qualities, this kind of approach, this kind of that. Like I've heard the term unicorn, right? So what it is where's the ideal unicorn, and aim for that and have the text speaking directly to them. And that's where you'll find it just little things like that. It's people often think that it's the words on the page, but it's a lot of prep work also before. It's like understanding the role. What are their ambitions in terms of the client? What's the ideal candidate unicorn? All those kind of steps will then, when you get to the keyboard, that's when you can go, okay, I know exactly who I'm talking to. I know exactly what I want out of them. I have exactly what's going to help them advance their career. And then you just craft a picture around that.
Yeah, I've found that really helpful, actually, for the last few ads that I've written, actually crafting that persona of the person, really putting myself in their shoes and going, actually, I'm looking for a team leader at the moment. What would this team leader from another agency, why would they move? What are they looking for? What are the potential things they'd be looking for, and how can I address that in the ad? So they go, actually, that's something that will progress my career, and this is how this business will get me there.
And that you've just hit on the number one rule, is always give them a why. That's the number one rule with copywriting, is always give them a purpose or a why. So it's not just here's the job ad, apply. It's like something like, I'm a big fan of questions. Are you looking for, is it time to embrace something else? That challenge, it spurs people. It spurs people to look at things a bit more. And that's what, like, you can just reframe some of it. Instead of the same cliche stuff, you can say things like that will really help attract and challenge people. And even the passive candidates, the ones that aren't actively looking, if you trigger those points, like you just said, Ed, where you said that why would another BM or a PM leave another agency? That's what it could be, is you could spur a real like unicorn to come over, because you say something like, is it time? Have you been looking for more responsibility, less stress? Something like that.
Yeah.
If you can bring your client's role and your unicorn's passion together and ride in the middle, that's where it gets results.
Yeah. Chris, I've seen a few ads, I'm sure everyone has, that have too much personality, in my opinion, but really cool, and they're very funny. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? When people inject too much personality into it, are you likely to sort of get the wrong type of applicant?
Yeah. Okay. So this is an entire conversation, and I'll give you the clip notes. So, okay, the implications of that, I'm not against it. I think it's good, but you need to take in terms of these considerations. So when you put a lot of personality into that, you have to understand that, does it match your client's sort of tone? Because if you're full of personality and really exciting, and then they get the role and they get your infectious enthusiasm, and then they get the role, and it's a big drop if it doesn't live up to that. And that's, I'm just saying, some agencies work with really cool clients, and therefore they can be that, because the role isn't disappointing. So there's no right or wrong answer, but these are the kind of considerations. The second thing is, it's great if your brand and your personality and your agency is that. Like I worked with recently with this phenomenal agency in Perth, and they write like this. And so, and I thought it matched them because that's how they come across. That's who they recruit for. They attract those clients and they attract those applicants. And so therefore having that in really engaging style works for them, but it might not work for every agency. And the other thing you have to consider is, like you said, is it going to attract the right candidate? Because if you dress it up in a real, like, you use swear words or things like that, and really go all out, you might end up turning away the people because they're simply confused. So it's a real skill. It's a real skill to write like that, to make sure that you're coming across as engaging, but not confusing. And so again, it comes back to the why. Why are you talking like this? And again, please don't think I'm discouraging it, because your agency and your clients and everything fits. By all means, that Perth agency nailed it. But if that's not you, or you're going from 0 to 100, or some of your ads are like that and some aren't, it's a branding issue.
That's a really, really good point, actually. I never really thought about it, because you can inject your own personality into it. And although you're representing your client, that's not who they are. So you might get the wrong people applying because they're like, oh, this
they're like,
really cool.
They want the job at your agency. Right?
Yeah, and then they go to your client who's a fin service broker and they're completely dull and drab.
And in reverse, it also works in the other way, is that you might, a personality that fits that financial company, for example, might get turned off by your
exuberant.
I know that very well, because I'm like this naturally. And so I have to take I write for a lot of financial companies, and I have to turn it right back, because it's adjusting the tone.
Yeah, it's knowing both of those people, isn't it? The client and the candidate. What's best practice in terms of layout, Chris? Because I think we're all, as recruiters, the sort of layout that we've been taught by Seek, they're the only ones that sort of roll things out. It's the company, the role, what's in it for you.
Yeah, and there's not much you can do when it's a template. Look, I like to. I'm not against the bullet points, and the reason why is because if you think about it, I live and breathe this when I do my writing. It has to be digestible to the eye. It's weird as that sounds. So when you have a slab of text, people think about a slab of text right now. The minute you go, leave, right? So the best way I find to do it is provide like the catchy title, and then an introduction to and the introduction has to be catchy in terms of what's in it for you. So this is where you would say, is it time for a sea change? Is it time to unleash your potential? Or you don't say about the company. It's got to be about them. Like, is something, right? And then you would say, then move the next paragraph. So short paragraph of the challenge. The next paragraph is about the role. So it's not about the business per se. It's more like, this is an opportunity to, there's an exciting position available in this division, this department. This is what you'll be doing, but keep it nice. Then you can say some of the attributes and then put them in bullet points. And this is where you can have the skimmable content. People love that skimmable content because after 2 paragraphs, they're looking for a reset. So you give them the bullet points so that they can refresh their eyes. Right. I know it's all very technical, right? And then give them another paragraph of who we are, like, who the business is, our client is blah, 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 blah. So it's providing that context and then how to apply.
Would you have the headers on there so people can skip?
Yes.
What they don't actually care about?
Yeah, so that's exactly how I write my blogs. Because people can go, wow, your blogs are really long, but they're digestible. That's why. Because I provide, big headings that are skimmable, and short paragraphs. Then another heading, and you can jazz it up or knock it down as much as you want. So instead of saying requirements, you can say, this is what we need. Or the ideal candidate, blah, 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 and then don't forget to put, this is what's in it for you. Or this is what you can do in return, and that's something where they can find the two-way street. Even if you do this is what's in it for you further up, right? So it creates that excitement and gets them motivated to keep going.
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed, Chris, when we agreed to do this webinar, I did a bit of an analysis on my ads pre my content copywriting course, and then the ad that was really successful for me.
Mm-hmm.
And on average, my ads pre this course said the word you probably 8 to 10 times. And then the ad that did really well, 33 times I'd written you.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that really resonated with me from the course was that the word you is really powerful, because you need to put someone into that mindset of this is actually just talking to you, not a generic ad.
Agreed. And I definitely agree with that. It's not saying that you can't say our ideal client, our ideal applicant. You can say that once or twice, but you're right, is that it really comes down to second person. So engaging with them on the you, like you'll have the opportunity to, this is your chance. You will be working with, and I know some people are probably thinking, oh, I do that anyway, but that's a really important point think of it as a two-way conversation with, you're saying, this is what I'm looking for. This is what you'll get. This is what you'll be working with. And then they come back and say, what's in it for me? And you say, you can get this. It's like that, but in print form.
Yeah. One thing that I struggle with, Chris, is how do you actively get people not to apply? I think that's a real skill. As well as attracting the right person, you also don't want to sit through as a recruiter 400 applicants and they're just growing, and they will over the next few months with JobKeeper stuff, and there'll be more people on the market than ever. Yeah. And you don't want to have to sift through a million applicants. So how do you actively write so it discourages people, but also you're not coming across like a complete...
That word, okay, so remember I said before, like, don't apply if. I wouldn't recommend that. Now, look, I have to embrace this first, is that you're naturally going to get lots of applicants. Doesn't matter how you write it, because you get those people that just go apply, right? So it's going to happen. But I'm just thinking about it then. I wrote a cover letter for a client just recently, and I thought that the cover letter is actually where people get to cater and tailor their message to the job application. So this literally just came to me in the last second. What you could do is say something like, and I'm just making this up as I go, submit, we are going to pay particular focus on your cover letter. So make sure that this is highly tailored to this role, as this will greatly improve your chances. The reason why I would put that, and this is just coming on the top of my head, but I've done a lot of recruitment myself in my company, and I would say that it's the cover letters that mention your actual, like, your name, or like they say, dear recruitment department from this company, and they've gone, I'm applying for this particular role. I feel like the people that take the time to address their cover letter directly to your role are the ones that they're going to get your attention the most, and you'll be able to screen out a lot of the generic applications from that. So this is, again, a bit more of a mechanical thing, but I'm just saying that this is, it also, the writing in your ad spurs a challenge for people to go, listen, if you really want this role, you need to take the extra time to cater a cover letter to this role. And so I'm thinking that alone will provide a barrier to a lot of people that would otherwise go, just submit the same one again and again. I mean, does that resonate with you? Like, is that? Yeah,
I think so. Well, I think personally, I don't pay any attention to cover letters
at all
anymore.
Really?
No, I think people just don't. They haven't for ages anyway. From what I've seen over the last few years, people just don't tailor them at all.
Right, and see, the funny thing is, so would that mean that someone who does go all out, would that grab your attention?
Quite possibly not, because I really don't. I don't even open cover letters. Because I think 9 times out of 10. Yeah.
Right. Can everyone agree? Like, so I never look at cover letters either. Is that a consistent thing that's happening?
Yeah, you guys. Yeah, we've got 2 agree.
Oh, wow.
They don't know the cover letters. I love that. Yeah, no, if it's not in the resume, it didn't happen.
Right. This is wow.
Yeah, it's really
Okay, well,
interesting.
Daniel's there. Okay, and I feel wow, interesting. Okay, yeah, from a candidate perspective, is good. Wow. Okay,
Uh,
well, all right. Let's say in balance. To go back to your question, then, if cover letter is not the option, then it would really come down to, oh, your clients are usually interested. Interesting. Okay, so I mean, look, file this because this could be something that, like, let's say that, yeah, like Sam just said, if it's addressed to me specifically,
mm,
I think that if you set I mean, it's worth a try. I just said I came up with it on the
yeah,
fly, so it's worth a try. Maybe if you want to do it for your next ad, you say, look, tailor your cover letter to this message.
yeah,
It could just help you screen out a lot of people. I'm just
yeah.
an idea, but anyway, what the other techniques maybe in the copy would be making sure that you say, like, as I said, it comes back to that, what's the unicorn applicant? And
Mm,
so tailoring your message, and like you said before, as where it's talking directly to them, should
mm,
help you eliminate some of the people
yeah,
that really sort of are just applying for anything, is what I
yeah.
would suggest.
Yeah, and I think you get the opportunists that look at an ad, say, for example, I've got a junior consultant looking at a senior consultant role. I'm never going to be able to place them into that role. So
Yeah.
some of the things that I would write in there is the reasons why those candidates won't
Yes.
be successful. So me saying,
That's why.
we'd love to help everyone. Junior consultants will not fit this role because the agency is very small. They don't have the financial capacity for
Mhm.
training and development, blah, blah, or whatever it might be. Would that be a way to filter
Yes,
those with them?
definitely, and it's keeping the conversation positive. I think rather
Yeah,
than saying you just don't get it, it's saying things like, you know, due to the specific nature of the company, or
yeah,
we're looking for this experience because this
yeah,
person needs to be doing this. Yeah, I think that's a really good
mm,
way to, because it also, remember that it also gives the ones who are ideal applicants, it also gives them a
mm,
bit of feel like a bit chuffed,
yeah,
because they can go, oh, well, like, this is a small agency who needs my expertise. I'm definitely
mm,
applying for this because that's what
yeah,
I do. So I feel like it works in your favor in two regards there. So
yeah.
definitely providing the why or why not in this case.
Mm. How specific do you reckon, Chris, you need to go? Because I've read somewhere if people, there's a certain demographic, if they see 10 bullet points and they can't confidently say they can do 8 out of the 10, they won't apply.
Oh, so you're saying, like, so should you say these are absolutely necessary? And these
Yeah.
are, yeah. Look, I think that you can reframe things. I'm not opposed to the fact that you can say these are the must-haves and these are the
Mm,
nice-to-haves. I don't
mm,
think that that's a trope that we need to break, because the reality is that's what happens in the role. I would say, as a recruiter, though, is not to put so many defining things, because what happens is you turn away a lot of applicants that could actually match. Like, for example, saying that they need to have extremely specific experience. I know that you're balancing your clients thing and all that, but I find that a lot of ads, for example, for copywriters, for example, they will, I'll see an ad for someone looking for someone like myself, and they will say, we're an air conditioning company and we need a copywriter to write some ads and some social media posts. And then they'll say needs 5 years of air conditioning experience. And
mm,
pretty much that eliminates pretty much every copywriter, because no one has that kind of thing. So what I would say is that, when I know that there's the client instruction side, but where maybe it's worth asking them, where is their sense of leniency here?
mm,
Because you might be able, like, I just feel like when you tighten it too much and you get too specific,
mm,
you'll get people that naturally go, it's not worth even trying.
yeah.
And so it might be something like saying, we'd really appreciate a marketing degree with at least 1 to 2 years experience in some related industry. But saying, like, it needs to be in toothpaste, for example, people go, no, I don't, they might not feel like they apply, and you might lose half your applicants who might have been
Mm,
enrolled. So my advice is, maybe before you even get to the writing, it might be asking the client why. And I don't know if
mm,
I'm saying that, but like, why have you asked for this much experience? Is there a justification, or are we cutting our options off because we're setting
mm.
the bar way too high?
Yeah, getting too specific.
Yeah. So it's a sweet spot, isn't it? Because you don't want
Mm,
to go too low, but you
yeah.
do want to sort of set the scene of saying, I think what you said before is where you said that giving them a why. So it's like, for example, you say, we're looking for 2 years of marketing practical experience in social media. The reason is because we don't have any ourselves, or, or something like, we really need someone that can take charge of this because we haven't had a good social media program for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's like, instead of saying you need 2 years, it's saying, we need you to have some experience because we actually don't have it ourselves, or we don't have someone to mentor you through this.
Yeah.
I think I think, again, because you're cutting off the people who don't and you're chucking the people who do.
One of the things I have done in the past, and I know it's not best practice, is put too much information in. And I think seeing some stats around where people are actually viewing these ads, and I think Seek put it out 75 or 76, don't quote me on that percent, are applying via mobile.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
But I'm like, when you see that length of text that I used to push out, I'm like, no wonder I never got anyone applying, because, I mean, in the age of social media and scroll culture, where we want the information very concise and very quick and easy to read, people just don't have the patience. Would you say that's true?
Yes, I agree. At least I'll get right back to you in a second. But yes, I agree. I would. Okay, a trick that I use is brain dump. Okay, just brain dump all your ideas, and then what I would do is come back, maybe have a coffee, come back and really pull it back. And the reason why I think this way is because our initial trying to get it done, we default to the fact that we write too much info, and we need to, and then what happens if they don't get this? What happens if they don't get that? This is something I see on websites, and pretty much all copy actually, is that people naturally default to, I need to put everything in because people might not understand. And the reality is that people are actually, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but people are smarter than you think a lot of the times, because it's like, you often think, I need to bridge this gap and bridge that gap. But a lot of the times, all you need to say is look, we're looking for the ideal person who can come in, revolutionize this particular department, lead the team to success, and deliver the results that we need you to deliver. Like, that's all you need to say. You don't need to go on and go, our KPIs are quite stringent and blah, 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 because that's what they'll ask in the interview, and that's what they'll ask you directly. So I would avoid it, like, write down your brain dump, add your clients' essentials in, and then go away, grab a coffee, come back and think about it again and go, right, if I was applying for this role, where would I draw the line? Where would I stop reading? And it's all about, like, that copywriter technique is, how will this sentence get me to the next sentence? And that's what really helps. I like that I think transparency of a PD is important in an ad. Otherwise, you get a lot of candidates who ask why they weren't shortlisted, which is fine. But the question of, then why didn't the ad state this comes up? Yeah, look, I think that that's at least right, is that you need to make sure that it is completely transparent. Don't, like, sugarcoat things and don't hide things. But at the same time, you don't need to mention every single detail, because otherwise you'll be there doing all the writing rather than doing what you really like, which is recruiting.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention something is that I did something for a gym, which was in recruitment a couple of years ago, that I really love, and I use this as an example a lot, is that I had a gym and an owner of a gym in Sydney that came to me and said, Chris, write me a Seek ad. I need a personal trainer that's on the top of echelon. I need just one that's going to be amazing. And what he said was, he said, write me an ad. And I said, look, have you considered video? Now, I know that sometimes this might not be an option for people, but for this particular client, I said, let's write a video where, because you're targeting an audience that is very social and loves, like, energy, right?
Yeah.
So I said, let's do that. And so what we did is I wrote a script instead, and it had him outside, and he opened the door and the camera scanned the gym and it said, welcome to your new office, right? And then it said things like, here's the opportunities, you get to plan your own training schedules, pick your own hours, blah, 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 blah. So it started with the real positives of it. And then it said, in exchange, we need these things from you.
Yeah.
That flow worked really well. And he got so many applicants for that. And because he knew exactly what he wanted, and he knew the style and the kind of audience. So what I'm saying is, it's always got to be about your audience and embracing the mediums that are coming up.
Yeah. I think we all fall prey to what we want from it,
Yes.
rather than thinking about what the person on the other end will think of it and what they want and why they would engage with it. Because over the last few months, that's the first thing I ask myself with any piece of content, whether it's LinkedIn, emails, will the person on the how will the other person on the other end receive this?
Yeah,
and interesting to them.
There's a stigma where you have to have the it's just, there's this thing where you need to say, look, it's a formal job, right? It's got to be a job, and that's what we have to do. But in the end, remember, it's just as much of an incentive for you to get the right person as it is for them to find the right job. So don't forget that. Don't forget to open that two-way street. As I said, I'm sorry, I don't mean to harp on, but it really is important to make sure that you're giving them a reason to apply.
Yeah, and a reason to engage, hey?
Yeah, because I think these are people that, like, I don't know what everyone finds, but I saw a stat recently that said that there's a huge amount of, like, on Seek and LinkedIn, there's like 70% of applicants are, what do they call it? Passive applicants. They're not looking for jobs. They're just browsing.
Yeah.
And to get that attention and to lift them from a role they've got that they're kind of happy with into a role that's going to be something, and they're probably the gold ones.
Yeah.
That's, it has to be something like really appealing, I feel.
Oh, 100% agree with me. I think that's why putting too much detail works against you, because my ultimate goal with an ad isn't actually for people to apply. I need to pique their interest, because who I'm targeting are not people on the market. They're people in jobs that are currently relatively happy, but I need them to read that and go, that sounds really interesting. I'm going to pick up the phone to Wes. And that's where my job comes into it, and my skills in describing the client. That's when I take over, but I just need them to pick up the phone and be intrigued enough to pick up the phone, because those are the candidates that we're all targeting, I'd say, in recruitment. It's the passive candidates. It's not the ones actively on the market applying for every single job.
Yeah. And there's a good question there. Abby said, do you feel videos about work culture and testimonials work in job ads? Well, from my experience, sorry, very loud train. From my experience, I found that they do, but keep them short. So I write for a lot of pharma companies, and they love this technique, right? But the problem that we have is that they go on and on and on, and it goes for like 8 minutes. My advice for those kind of things is they do support it. It shouldn't be your number one thing that you're doing, but I think that it is a nice supportive message, but it should be nice and sharp. Like, and it should feel genuine, not contrived. So it should be something like, hey, my name is Jim. I've been with the company for 3 years, and I love the fact that they internally promote and that they are excited for they look at investing in you so you can invest in them. Like, things like that are good messages. So that's that question. Is there consensus that most recruiters are not reading cover letters? It seems so. Comes down to SEO or algorithms. I don't think that's related, because that's SEO is public facing, whereas people have to submit a cover letter, so it wouldn't be SEO. So
overall, Chris, would you say how many words would you say? It's a hard one to, and it will be very dependent if it's an exact search-based role or a junior level role. But I mean, my gut says it needs to be short, concise, because of the market which we're in.
Yeah, and people have an 8-second attention span now. They're calling us the goldfish generation. And so the reality is that you just, even a formal position like a CEO, CIO, CMO, all of those, they're still time poor, right? Especially again. And so remember that, think about, really put yourself in their shoes. They really don't, they're not expecting to see an encyclopedia on this position. And so don't think you need to give that to them. I feel like, so long as you can create that, remember we said that structure where it's the why and the enticing part and the reason and the kind of like opportunity they've got, then the benefits for them, and then the requirements about the company and how to apply. I feel like if you do that in a nice, distinct way, it's a nice flow. It gives them a reason to read on. And I feel like that would be enough for them at least to call you and to say, look, can you let me know if this is something else? I feel like that's a sort of safe space there. Yeah,
I think so, mate. And I think not the problem, but the reason people put in too much content is because Seek were advising people 8 years ago that you needed to put in a lot of detail, and things have moved so rapidly with social media and that attention span. We are the goldfish generation. If there's a huge bulk of text, I'm not bloody reading it.
No,
but if it's
no one would.
go...
even, and I think that also what happens is you forget that it's not just boredom. They get excited and they just apply. So it's not just thinking you're boring them to death. By the time you've done those first few paragraphs, they're probably thinking, I'm ready. This is me. And so if you've done the copyright, so that's what I mean is that then they might actually skip the requirements of the role because they're so excited. So I wouldn't waffle on. I would talk about the opportunities, the benefits for them, the real opportunity, like the real excitement, culture, blah, 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 blah. Then what they're going to get, what that we need from them. And I think next steps, just keep it nice and tight.
How long do you think it takes, Chris?
Yeah.
For me to, how long should it take for you to write an ad?
Okay.
So how long would it take a content writer like you to write an ad?
Okay.
Because mine bloody took me, the good one that I did took me an hour and a half.
It takes me like maybe half an hour. And a lot of that time is understanding. So like if you were to say, Chris, this is the role, this is what we're looking for, it takes me maybe 15 minutes to understand and 15 minutes to write. But remember that I do this like all day, every day. Like I wrote a script for a client at midnight the other night in a space of about 10 minutes because it was not a recruitment client, but like they needed it so urgently. So, but this is what I would struggle to recruit where you guys would be like, bang, right? But I would hopefully not more than an hour. What I would say is maybe make the brain dump 15 minutes. So because you've done all that research and you know the client.
So what would you put in the brain dump, Chris? Yeah.
So make your categories. So write down your categories. Say, it might be, do the headline last, okay? Because the headline, it's like your executive summary. So leave the headline to last. I would say, who is the ideal client? And this is not like to put in the ad, but like maybe put that up the top because it's like your anchor. So write the ideal client is, okay. Oh, sorry.
Candidate.
Applicant. Yes, candidate. The ideal candidate is this. Then I would say, okay, what is in it for them? Okay, is what I would say is and write that down. What is in it for them? And just do bullet, or whatever you're comfortable with. Then I would say, what are the benefits? Okay, and that you can list them as bullets. So it's like great culture, flexible hours, blah, 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 right? So the first one was more of a challenge, an exciting challenge. This one is the benefits. Then I would say, what do you need from them? So what are the kind of yeses and maybes? And then what something about the company. And I would say, not just grab their from their website. It would be, our client is an exciting, like talk, it's you're still talking to them. So don't just shift into this sudden whole, we're an established organization that will
corporate,
still always be conversational. So instead of saying, then you just tune and go, oh, this is a 13-year-old business, nothing like that. It would still be, our client is an evolving XYZ in this location with plenty of opportunity. They're quite open to new ways and innovative thinking. See how it's still about the business, but it's still about them as well. So I would put that, and then I'd put the instructions on how to apply, and then brain dump those kind of pillars, and then come back and do get a coffee, as I said. Have a bit of a breather, or write a few of these and then come back to them all, like have a breather and then come back to them all and then go, right. So now write the headline after that now. So write a headline, then go, right, what's the challenge? The challenge is just so flimsy. What is it that's going to excite them? And then put yourself in their mind, go, they're scrolling. Oh, there's a challenge. And then that will help you refine it. And one more advice is, the more you do it, the better you get.
Yeah.
So
that's really good advice, mate. I really like that. I think it's so important to actually have that persona of that person in your head, because then the copy gets so much easier, doesn't it? Because then you can go, great, okay, in the intro, I'm going to address one of the biggest pain points that I think this one person might be feeling. They might be struggling because there's no progression in their current role. They've been stuck as a senior consultant. There's no opportunity to lead a team. Yes. And so that might go into your sort of heading, as it were,
Yeah.
to grab their attention, and then you
That's
delve
it.
in deeper.
And same with like writing anything, cover letters. Sorry, some people get me to write landing pages, and it's the same thing. Is stop talking about you, start talking about them first. Get their attention.
With one of the questions was buzzwords. There is
I'm sure he is.
the company mascot called Spencer.
I saw a movement. I was like, who was that?
One of the things that really turns me off as an applicant when I was applying for roles and someone's put a question in is buzzwords. And I think a lot of, but when people put the benefits, it's a really collaborative environment. That to me personally says nothing. If I was reading that, I'd go, oh, here we go. It's another person, another collaborative environment. I would want to see that backed up with, it's a really collaborative environment. The consultants on average share 40% of their clients across the business. That to me holds a lot of weight. So with backing up these little claims that people make, I think it's really important.
Yes, and every ad is going to be different, but what I 100% agree with you is that it's not about writing another pillar of information or like this whole slab of info, but like you just said, it's like, for example, you might say in the ad, this client works hard and plays hard, and this includes Friday drinks and regular social outings once a month. You'd be surprised. You might think, oh, that sounds so corny. You'll be surprised how many people would go, my God, my current work doesn't do that. That's the difference right there, is that if you just show them, because remember, guys, as you would know this better than I, is that roles today, people want purpose. They want meaning out of these roles. They want more than the 70s and the 80s were when people were going, it's 9 to 5, we work, we come home, we disengage, right? So today, especially millennials and the newer generation, they want purpose. They want meaning. They want to make a difference. Does your ad show them how they're going to make a difference, and how this position is going to make a difference on the world? And you might think, but I've got something doing accounting. It doesn't matter. It's like, it might be something like, use your expertise to help clients achieve their results, or something like, see how there's a circular in there?
Bigger picture, isn't it? It's like when you tell someone to do something and don't give them the bigger picture, they won't do as good a job unless you sit down and go, well, actually, I need you to do this very mundane admin task, but in the grand scheme of things, this will help me do this, and then this helps me do this, and so they get the whole big picture.
Correct. And don't be afraid to. Again, this might be part of your mind dump, and then you refine it. But yes, don't just go collaborative. Like you might say, as you said, with the 80%, or even if you can't get that nitty gritty, you might say we have weekly meetings where we work together and brainstorm, or something like that. Again, there's little subtle hints. You never know what will resonate with people. Like some people I know when I've applied for jobs, I've been in corporate marketing, and those little things where they say, we invest in your expertise as well, where we send you to training courses, that was highly appealing for me. And so just saying, we support you is not enough. Saying we support you by, we have a bit of this client has a bit of a budget to spend on everyone that will help them go to courses and learn and things like that.
What's helped me, Chris, and I'm not sure if it will help other people. So typically recruiters will recruit in a particular niche, and so they might have 10 separate roles that they recruit. So it might be an accountant, CFA, whatever it might be. Yes. And what I did after my copywriting course was I created a persona for each of those categories. Yep. And I'd go, okay, what would a consultant want at the moment? What would they be struggling with? They'd be struggling with promotional. Well, they might be blah, blah, blah. And there was a whole heap of things for each category that I now draw upon for each role to draft my ad. Would you advise on doing that to make life easier moving forward, to have those pre-populated categories of people and personas?
Yeah, look, it brings us back to what we were saying before, is what's the ideal category and ideal person. I think that it's different for everyone. I definitely think having a persona is a good idea regardless. Everyone should have that. But I think that how people define it is unique to each recruiter. So for example, some recruiter might say, you know what, I come up with persona, every time, because they say that every role is so unique, whereas you might get a cluster of roles that are the same persona. So only you can decide where you want to play in that regard. But it does help to have that anchor of who am I aiming for here, because that really does help.
Yeah.
Louise's advice around genders. Ooh, this is a very tricky one because of the PC thing.
And this is being recorded, Chris.
Yeah. No. I'm not going to say anything bad. I mean, like, as in, like, years ago, it was really accepted to say things like, look, female applicants only because of the role. This is a really tricky one because so Louise, are you saying that it's like that it's a female or male only role, or what's your sort of? Can you give me a bit more context around what you mean by different genders? So you mean like it's specific to one gender, or there's a preference for gender? Oh, okay, different words to emotion, different genders.
Yeah.
Look, I wouldn't restrict it that much. The reason why is because I feel like there's a whole spectrum of different personalities within a gender now that is very out there. And so I don't feel like you need to really trigger. I mean, like for example, I've written recently for a client called but like they're a women mentoring program, and a guy wrote it, and I had to put myself in their perspective, and so I used the words like empowering, take control of, I've written recently for what is she, like she's a coach, and she mentors women, and she was saying that she, like your question, Louise, is that it had to be something like using words like you'll have the ability to be confident in a boardroom setting, and those kind of words. It's a really tricky one to get around. I've written ads for, say, medical clinics, where they say that it's female health. And so often you can actually require for male-dominated environments to ask it shortly for females. Yeah, so that's what happened when I was working in a GP role in marketing, and it was very male-dominated at the time. Now it's very female-dominated, but it was male-dominated at the time. And the way we got around it was wordings like saying female health, like a doctor specializing in female health. And what it really helped do is, even though you got the male applicants, it helped you attract a lot more of the people that you want. It is a really tricky one because different use of language attracts different genders. Do you feel that? I mean, do you feel that that's build for men, create for men?
I'm not sure.
Luke, I still say that I don't find. I mean, it might be different from your experience. I don't.
For women, build for men.
I see what you're getting at, but I feel like it doesn't. It's not that definitive anymore. Yeah, Seek says so. Do they? Create. What do you think is? How about I ask you?
Honestly, I don't think it. I wouldn't write different words for different genders. I just don't think it's a thing in my industry. It might be in certain industries, but
Luke, what's your industry? Do you find that you need to define that? Because tech. Oh, interesting. Okay. For me, I can't. Like, I personally wouldn't think that a female applicant would look at build and say, "Oh, I'm not going to apply for that." Especially if it is in tech, where they have qualifications and experience. Sorry, I wish I had more of a definitive answer, but I've never really sort of approached it from this direction because I've never had to personally write words in a particular one.
Yeah, I think I would just do it if I was specifically looking for a female director for an agency. Again, I would go back to the persona. If we were specifically looking for a female, what might that female be struggling with at the moment in the current agency? Yeah. Are they penalised for working part-time and all of that? And I would address that in the ad.
Yeah. I love what Leonie just said. We're looking for gender balance. That's really interesting. Especially because you have to be, it's like a game right now. You have to be really subtle. As I said, with the GP one, that's what we're saying is we wrote with a particular interest in female health. And that really got the engagement with the women up a bit more. But I think it's a case where, Lucas, you're right. Leonie, that was really good. Is that kind of response. Sorry, I wish I had a more definitive answer, but I think it's very specific to a very specific job. Like, I think it would have to be where it'd be case by case, where you'd have to say, okay, where this is an executive role, but we want to attract, let's say that the client says we only want to have women. It might be just using subtle language as the role is set up with flexible hours, so you can move around children's schedules and things like that. I feel like that would. When I worked with internal, we had to run all ads through Gender Decoder that added up.
Thanks for sharing that, Richard.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Gender Decoder. Excellent.
How fascinating! This is something I have to learn, which is great.
Yeah. I'm conscious of time, guys. We've just hit the hour. I feel like I could talk about this for ages. There's one other quick question that I'd love to ask.
Sure.
Chris, and it's actually not related to job adverts, but it's subject lines in emails. One of the questions that was submitted was, what are the best sort of practice for writing subject lines in emails that will get seen? A lot of recruiters send these shots, so you need them to be opened. What's your advice on that?
So I would say always use their name in the subject line. I find that that's like a 5-6 times improvement in open rate. So like, because I do a lot of EDMs, and when I use their name in it, like saying, hi, Scott, or Scott, your results are in, or the other way around, your results are in, Scott. That automation, but you can use automation, but that personalization really gets their attention. I also find that it has to be something, again, it's the relevance factor, is it has to be something that they're going to find that is on topic right now. So for example, like I just said, your results are in, or Scott, this role is relevant to what you're looking for right now. Something that, because anyone can, like the ones that people ignore are the ones that say generic statements. Like they say, your daily pick. People tend to ignore that because they're natural, like people grow over time and they watch what's spam, and that's a kind of spammy kind of sound. Whereas if it says something like, especially if you've got you've seen that they're applying right now and they're quite an active applicant, you might want to say something like, I've got good news. I would, maybe if you put their name on it, like, Scott, I've got good news, or I found your next role, like something like that. Or think about what their mindset is right now. That's where you get the most engagement, is mindset. So if they're quite active, have you considered, like something like that, like, Scott, have you considered a CMO role? ? Do you know, like things like that with their name and maybe a question mark, or something that makes them rise to a challenge, is what gets the most engagement, is when people are actually getting something that's interesting to them. Does that answer your question, Is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what kind of context are they in?
I think the person hasn't put the context in, but I think just in general for e-shotting, a lot of the time the programs went late, but in names and subjects. So because my rule of thumb has always been just pop in what the actual content is in the subject line. So if I'm providing some value in terms of a white paper, I'd put in white paper on billings, or whatever it might be, rather than going a roundabout way and tricking someone into opening it. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yes. Actually, I should say that. Never, ever, ever, ever use clickbait. Never. Because believe me, they will mark you as spam, and that's it. You're done. Like, never use, if you disappoint, see, the biggest problem with clickbait is that the disappointment factor. Yeah. And it's today, people actually hate you, not just dislike you for that. So the idea is that in your email, it should say, like with the white paper, it should say key insights into, something that's relevant to them. Yeah. Like, if you're looking for the new role, this is what you need to know, but like open questions, who, what, where, when, and why, how. Pick the most important relevant point in the message. That's it. And it has to be relevant to their mindset, because people have blinkers on today, and anything that's outside here, they just don't click. Whereas as soon as they're looking for roles and you say, this role's interesting, bing, they go for it because it's relevant to them at the time.
Yeah, relevancy is key, hey?
Huge. Relevancy is key. How is this line, how is this email, how is this ad relevant to my customer?
Yeah. Chris, you're a champion. I feel like we could carry on talking.
Oh, I could just, that's what I'm like. But yeah, look, does anyone have last question? Then we'll wrap up, and I'm happy to call it. I hope everyone got a lot. Did everyone get a lot out of this? I hope this
I've got one last question from Chrysalin. Buzzwords and social media are great for millennials, but what if you need a candidate who is mature, experienced in their field of specialization? What is the best way to attract those types of candidates?
Yeah, you know what the funny thing is? Don't make the misconception that those people aren't on Facebook. Like that's something that I had to learn, because I naturally default to that as well. I would be like, yeah, it's that no one in a senior role would use Facebook. Now you still have to default to the Seek and all those kind of things, but it might just be that you tone the message in a different way, but still use Facebook. I would definitely use LinkedIn as well for those senior roles, because the senior roles tend to be quite active on LinkedIn platforms, but don't make the assumption that you've just got to cancel Facebook, because those kind of generations are definitely there, especially because you'll find that the millennials that are still on Facebook, because there's a lot that aren't. The millennials that are on Facebook, they often have 500 different tabs, whereas the people that you're targeting, the senior level, they probably have a small friend list, and they have a small few interests. And so you'll find that the cut through that you might get on Facebook will be really high, because they only have a small feed. So don't make the assumption that they aren't using Facebook, because they definitely are.
Awesome.
I hope that helped. Sorry, we could go on forever.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for attending. I'll flick through the link to the recording. Please, as I said, feel free to share it with your networks if you feel it was relevant. You might feel it's relevant for your clients to see. Feel free to share it. I'll be posting it on LinkedIn next week. Would appreciate a like so we can get it out to further networks. And I'll include details for Chris as well. If you guys wanted to reach out to Chris, I'd encourage you to connect with him on LinkedIn. Media.
Yeah, thank you so much everyone for coming. I hope you really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. Even if you found like one gold nugget, take it, run it with it, and use it. So thank you everyone.
Thanks,
have a wonderful weekend.
Cheers, guys. Thanks again, Chris. Catch you all soon.
Yeah.